Well, hello, my lovelies. It is Countess, and I'm back with another video for you guys. Oh, I've got a doozy for you in this video. We're gonna shift gears, and we're gonna take a leap across the pond to New York City, back in 1968. Now, I was given some information from a very wise supernatural hermit, and it's just a very entertaining article from the second best underground magazine / newspaper in NYC, Rat Subterranean News. Yes, the other being literally the other magazine. Isn't that funny? I thought that was quite funny. Anyways, I want to just kind of do a quick background about RAT. It was established in 1968, and it was a magazine that was deeply involved in sex, drugs, and rock and roll, as well as revolutionary art and politics. Doesn't that sound familiar? We're all on the same wavelength here. There was a lot of concentration on Marxism, nihilism, anarchy, just crazy stuff. And I think in America, these magazines were a little bit more unbridled. They were able to, because of our constitutional freedom of speech and freedom of the press, I don't think England has those exact rights in their country. So they're a little bit more inhibited. That's what I've noticed. So this article that I'm going to be reading comes from the Rat Subterranean News, and it is an article that was quickly shown in an I Am a Phony video. And I will let you guys determine the veracity of the information in this article. It is from Rat Subterranean News, 1969. It's high time our Billy received the credit he deserves. Dad. Editor's note. Lee Merrick, an old friend of ours, sent this Rat exclusive by cable just a day before publication. By Lee Merrick. London, October 26th. Paul McCartney is dead. All the Beatles, of course, know it, but they aren't talking. All the insiders at Apple Corporation have known it for a long time without ever leaking a word. It's been the world's best kept secret. But in the last days, I have discovered absolute proof of Paul's death, and I think it's time that the world knew the truth. The hoax has gone on long enough. I have gotten to know a lot of people at Apple Corp pretty well during the 6 months I've hung around, jamming and doing various studio gigs. I had seen the Beatles, including Paul, many times around the studio and offices. Rumors about them are a dime a dozen. I had heard one about Paul's death, but it was just one of those scores that went around. Even with the death rumor, received international press coverage. I didn't take the whole thing very seriously. But my opinion changed radically as a result of a party I attended last Wednesday. The party, at the house of a London rock musician, included the usual assortment of hip riders, rock stars, and hanger-ons. Several Apple friends also showed up. The latest Beatle rumor was, of course, the main topic of conversation. Everyone there considered himself to be very in with the Beatles, and they all joked about the obvious foolishness of the latest outcropping of Beatlemania. After a while, several of my Apple friends and I decided to split to one of their apartments to smoke a little dope and check out some new tapes that had just come in. People eventually drifted off to crash or ball, leaving myself and my old friend. I had noticed earlier that the light talk about Paul's rumored death had put him very uptight, and the idea to leave had been in his first place. In the past few months, we had grown pretty close, and we were pretty stoned. So I began to question him about the whole affair. The story I drew out of him over the next few hours went like this. Remember the first cut on the Sgt. Pepper album? The one with the line. And now we introduce you to the one and only Billy Shears. Did you ever wonder just who Billy Shears actually was? Of if he existed? Billy Shears was a young London rock musician who did short gigs in London nightclubs and occasional tours, waiting for the chance to make it big. As the 50s rock and roll craze spread across Europe, he got the chance to play various clubs on the continent. In 1962, Shears played on the same nightclub bill as Paul McCartney. In fact, he was virtually a dead ringer for Paul. Of course, you could tell the difference if they stood side by side. Billy had a somewhat oversized, beak-shaped nose, but in photographs or at a distance, they were absolutely indistinguishable. Their friendship remained intermittent over the next year or so as their respective tour paths occasionally crossed. When fame came to the Beatles in 1964, however, they lost touch with the obscure Billy, who drifted from small bandsman to studio musician. In November 1966, Paul McCartney was involved in an auto accident, a fatal accident. John, George, and Ringo first wanted to stage a gigantic funeral in memory of Paul, but the super sharp manager, Brian Epstein, feared that Paul's death would destroy the Beatles' mystique and managed almost entirely to suppress the news. Epstein's calculating mind had already devised a scheme for keeping the Beatles intact, at least for the public. With a minor nose job, Billy Shears would make a perfect replacement for Paul. Though hesitant at first, Shears soon accepted Epstein's offer. What musician could resist the opportunity to step into the shoes of one of the superstars of the rock world? In the first album, after Paul's death, Sgt. Pepper, the Beatles cryptically introduced the new Paul in the first cut. The album closes with A Day in the Life, the story of Paul's death. He blew his mind out in a car. He didn't notice that the lights had changed. A crowd of people stood and stared. They'd seen his face before, knowing perhaps that the ruse couldn't last. The Beatles have hinted at the truth in every successive album. On the Sgt. Pepper album, centerfold, only Paul faces away from the camera. Epstein did not want a large close-up of Paul to be shown until people became accustomed to the slight difference from the deceased Beatle. On the Magical Mystery Tour instead, only Paul wears a black rose. Revolution number 9 on the double album contains the phrase, "I buried Paul," when played backwards. The cover picture of the most recent Abbey Road shows the Beatles walking single file. The first two, Ringo and John, wearing mourning clothes. Paul is barefoot and dressed as for burial. George follows in the work clothes of an English gravedigger. Even though I knew that my old friend, who asked to remain unnamed, had known and worked with the Beatles from the early days in the 50s, his story seemed almost too fantastic to believe, and certainly people who did not know him would have no reason to believe that Billy took Paul's place 3 years ago. For the next few days, I searched for evidence to absolutely confirm the story. My search ended in the quiet Chelsea section of London, where I talked to Philip Shears, father of the new Paul McCartney. At first, Mr. Shears hesitated to discuss the matter. He had kept his lips sealed for 3 long years, in the pleasant middle-class home his son had bought for him. But after I repeated the story my Apple friend had told me, the elderly Mr. Shears relented and confirmed the facts. Mums and me always knew that it couldn't stay a secret forever. The Beatles are a bunch of wonderful lads and have made a whole new world for us. But, he added, it's high time that our Billy received the credit that he deserves. And now he has. So that's the end of that article by Lee Merrick. I tried to Google Lee Merrick, not a lot of information about this individual. I hope you enjoyed my pseudo-English accent. Had to spice it up a little bit, guys. So there were a lot of discrepancies in this article, especially when we got to the end. The date of the death, was not in November. It was September 11th. We all know that. And then the I buried Paul business, that was on strawberry fields. Cranberry sauce. Yes. So, just a fun article, adding to the confusion and to the rumor mill. Again, putting out a sort of propaganda. This is how the rumors start, and this is what they wanted. The underground movement at the time was connected all around the world. And that's another video that I'm working on right now, is looking into the world concert that they performed live for. More for that. More is going to be coming for that one separately. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this article. Thank you to my hermit out there for this information. I do appreciate it. And that's it. That's all I have for you guys tonight. So determine the veracity of it all and have fun with it. I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.